Welcome back to the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. It is Friday, July 22nd. I don't know why I was struggling to figure out what month it is. But yeah, Friday, July 22nd. It is another episode of the Impact Power Hour. I'm Ryan. No Angela this week. But that's okay. It's going to be a quicker solo episode. So yeah, lots of things going on in the wrestling universe today and throughout this weekend. We've got the G1 returning tomorrow. And the biggest news, though, is that we just learned that, Vince has retired from WWE in all capacities. Apparently John Laurinaitis is also done with WWE. Triple H is back in his executive vice president role, and we've got co-CEOs of WWE in Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon. So wild times. I think a lot of people probably didn't see that Vince would ever retire, and yeah. But we're not here to talk about WWE too much. But it is the stuff that is happening at the moment, so it felt like it needed to be talked about. So yeah, Impact last night, big episode, as we head on to the road for Emergence. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of the different platforms that we are on. Also, subscribe to the YouTube at Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. Also, follow us on Twitter at Deep Six Wrestling. Stay up to date with us. Nothing to talk about from last week's episode, no comments or anything like that, or from the Reddit posts and questions that we posted. But yeah, feel free to comment on those. We do like to have some fan engagement, as we have in the past. So yeah, starting off with BTI this week, Iceman intel was that, there's no one knows where Tenille Dashwood is, and that apparently Madison Rayne is going to be facing Masha Slamovich tonight. This was news to me because they hadn't advertised it all week, but during the day, apparently on social media, they did put a video of Masha giving the death warrant, as they're now calling them, to Madison. Didn't say when a match was going to be, but this was them basically revealing that there's going to be a match tonight between them. Cool stuff. Laredo Kid versus Johnny Swinger is our BTI match. And we have Scott D'Amore on commentary with the normal guys, Tom and Matt. I thought this was a joy to have Scott on commentary. He's fantastic whenever he does commentary. But his reasoning for being out there on commentary is, to hype up why he decided to book this match. He claimed that the reason he booked this match was because a few decades ago he saw a young Johnny Swinger take on young Rey Mysterio on WCW, and it was a barn burner of a match. And so he decided that we should do a current day version of that type of match between current day Johnny Swinger and someone who reminds him a lot of a young Rey Mysterio in Laredo Kid. I thought this was an interesting matchup. Again, because Johnny Swinger is a comedy character, but he does get some offense in this match. I thought he's not going to be winning any world titles or anything like that. But he's great whenever he's in the ring. He's a fun time. I thought it was very fun to see him try to tease that he was going to be doing a suicide dive. He started hyping himself up. He starts running the ropes like he's going to do it. And then he just exits the ropes and then slowly walks down the steps, doesn't jump down, and then does a little axe handle to Laredo Kid, and he sells it like it was the most devastating move that you could take. I thought that was fantastic. Throughout this match, Laredo Kid isn't trying to do as much of his high-flying offense as he normally does. Instead, he's trying to show off what else he can do. Lots of submissions, lots of technical stuff here from Laredo Kid. He kept on trying to go towards the single-leg Boston Crab and just working on Johnny Swinger's leg and ankle. I thought this was very interesting, just because you don't see that from a lot of luchadors. Especially Laredo Kid, you don't normally see him just going and targeting a certain limb. So this was a cool, different type of matchup for him. David Penzer, also the normal ring announcer, didn't announce this match. It was some local DJ. Cool. Scott also talks about how he's doing 2 different jobs tonight. As he has his 2 headsets. He's got his headset to communicate with the back and his headset to talk into the mic. He also has 2 watches, and he didn't realize he had 2 watches on. So that was interesting. We also have Matt Raywalt talking about his connection to Lucha Libre because he's married into the Guerrero family. And he talks about how he's now a lucha expert, which I thought was funny. And yeah, Scott also talks about how apparently Johnny Swinger was signed to WCW by Conan because he wanted an American version of a luchador. Interesting. And I think this just goes on to show just how long Swinger has been around for. He's been in ECW, he's been in WCW, I believe he did an appearance or 2 in WWE, and he's been in Impact numerous times. So yeah, great stuff. Laredo Kid wins because Zicky Dice hits Swinger with a loaded fanny pack when he was trying to hit Laredo Kid with it. Laredo Kid capitalizes, picks up the win. Good match overall. Crowd was really into this match. And this is definitely one of those matches where it sounds wacky on paper, but it was a really fun match. A really good way to start off the night. The main show starts off with a video package highlighting the Motor City Machine Guns' history, as well as setting up for their main event tonight against each other. We also get them talking a little bit about, Chris Sabin having multiple world title chances and winning the world title, and having singles success, being an X Division champion numerous times, and then talking about how Alex Shelley has never had a chance for the world title in his career, and that he really wants to get that finally tonight. So we head on into the main show, and we start off with Mia Yim and Jordynne Grace versus Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green, who are officially labeled as VXT or Vexed. This was their tag team faction name that they came up with in NXT. when they were just basically on the house show circuit at that point still. They hadn't, like, made any appearances really on TV other than as jobbers or enhancement talent. So we finally get that. We have a new Titantron for them. They've got matching gear, and it definitely seems like we are working towards them going towards that tag title opportunity, which I think the tag division definitely needs. They need two established individuals to come and kind of revitalize the division, because currently Rosemary and Taya are in it, and that's perfectly fine, but there's nobody else really that's a contender. You've got the Influence, but we'll get to them at a later point on this show. And yeah, that is your Impact Knockouts tag division. So definitely needs some work. I thought this was a really, really, really good match to start off the show. Chelsea and Deonna showing that they know how to work together really well. The whole story, as you normally would see it in with this, is can Mia and Jordynne coexist? Can they work together? Because, Jordynne is the current Knockouts champ. Mia is the number one contender. Are they going to be able to work together? And they didn't have any real issues. The main thing was just Deonna and Chelsea are such a well-oiled machine. They know each other so well that they just kept on circling back in, making sure to control the ring, control who could get into the match. If the ref wasn't looking and somebody was the focus was on one person, the other person would go and take out either Jordynne or Mia in the corner, just to make sure that whoever's in the ring can't tag back out. I thought this was really, really good. Lots of double team maneuvers here, work in the corner, distracting the ref when they needed to. And yeah, Jordynne and Mia both had comebacks of a sort here, where it looked like they were going to take control of the match, but Deonna and Chelsea would just take it right back whenever they could. And this was a pretty decisive victory. Chelsea and Deonna ended up picking up the win by pinning Mia Yim. Yeah, good stuff here. After this, Honor No More have a promo. They are upset that none of them have gotten title opportunities yet. Even though Kenny King had a chance at the X Division title a few shows ago. But yeah, apparently none of them have gotten opportunities. I think this was more supposed to be talking about how the OGK haven't gotten opportunities for the tag titles, but it came off as them talking about the entire group not getting title opportunities. Kenny and Vincent call out Heath for attacking them when they weren't looking and weren't paying attention, and saying that Heath wouldn't stand a chance with them in the ring or if they were focusing on looking for him. But Eddie says don't blame Heath for it. It's PCO's fault, because where was PCO when Vincent got attacked? That he's been letting Heath get the best of the group, and that there's no more time for any more failures. Eddie just seems like he just hates on PCO for literally anything he can. And again, I think this goes back to this whole idea that PCO doesn't fit this group at all. They've started to distance him. He's the only one who has his own theme. He's the only one who has his own Titantron. It just feels like, he's getting a bit further from the group. Even if Vincent is defending him, it just doesn't seem like PCO fits that group well. This would take us to Diener versus Sweetball Mike Bailey for the X Division title. And I wasn't extremely excited for this when they announced it, just because Diener isn't that exciting of a wrestler, in my opinion. And I feel like there's so many different options you can get with Mike Bailey. And really a plethora of different people you could use for this division. Rich Swann is somebody you could throw in at him. You could throw in, with these open challenges he's been teasing. We had Alan Angels as the first one. Maybe throw in somebody like local in the area that could come in. We had the tease that Kushida was going to be showing up. Throw in Kushida as somebody for this. Chris Bay, anybody really could have been thrown in here. Deaner just isn't that exciting of somebody who I'd really want to see against Mike Bailey. But I thought these guys had a fantastic match against each other. I thought that Deaner, this was probably one of the strongest Deaner matches I've ever seen. While this wasn't the best Mike Bailey match I've ever seen, I think he's still one of the best wrestlers out there right now, and I think that he still put on a fantastic performance. I think that if you want some fun X Division stuff, this is the match for you. You get to see Deaner, who again is a bigger guy. He's not as big as Joe Doring or Josh, but he's still mobile. He's still a taller individual. And he did use his size to get a bit of an advantage on Mike as much as he could. He also had Joe Doring in his corner. Joe does get involved at points in this match. But nothing to distract too much from the match itself. One of the bigger points in this match early on was Speedball taking control early. Deaner goes to the outside, and Mike decides he's going to go for a suicide dive, but as he goes for it, Deaner reacts, and Mike changes his opportunity, or what he's going to do. He tries to, just go under the bottom rope to kind of slide out to him. Deaner catches him with the ring apron, and starts attacking him where he's basically defenseless. He can't get out of it, and then Deaner gets admonished by the ref. So as Mike Bailey's trying to get out, Deaner's just walking away with the ref, saying, I'm not doing anything, I'll let him be. But this allows Joe Doring to attack him once he gets out. The ref doesn't see it. But yeah, Deaner does his normal, signature at this point. Corner powerbomb, where his opponent's in the corner. He kind of lifts them up by their legs in the corner and pulls them out of the corner into a powerbomb, which I think is really cool. I think it's a unique move. I really like it. I always have liked it since he's done it. But Mike Bailey does end up picking up the win here. And he is still your X Division champion. Commentary also pointed out that, Eric Young isn't here, so it shows that he's still maybe not a fan of what Deaner and Doring are doing, but they also said that, the goal is to get opportunity for the world title still, and that maybe Deaner was trying to get the X Division title to have a chance to use option C to get the world title back into Violent by Design's possession. And I think that's a very interesting idea here. Would be if Deaner had won this, would he have given it to, or would he have cashed in option C and won it? Obviously, if he won it, I should say. If he won it, would he have been able to, would he lay down for the title so that Eric could get it? Would there be an issue between Deaner and Eric about it? What would happen? But yeah, I think the right person won. I think Speedball is the smarter option. Keep the title on him because he's having a great reign so far. After this, we have the Ric Flair flashback moment of the week, and this time it is Ric Flair's previous last matches, him versus Sting, from the September 12th episode of Impact. However, it was labeled September 15th, so not sure what the issue was there, but yeah, apparently it was September 12th, not September 15th. After this, VXT, or Vexed, demand Deonna gets put into the Emergence Knockouts title match from Gail, because Deonna had pinned the number one contender, so she should be the new number one contender, or at least into the Knockouts title match. Gail says that if Deonna had beaten Mia, she would have been in it, but instead, Chelsea and Deonna are number one contenders for something else. They will be facing Taya and Rosemary for the Knockouts tag titles at Emergence, which they're thrilled about. Eric Young then confronts Diener and Joe, saying that, you know, he doesn't think they're in it still for the right reasons. He thinks that they are infected with the sickness. I thought that the angling for this was really cool, with different colors on each other's faces. Eric on top of the stairs while he's looking down on the rest of the group. He still sees himself as the leader and as the main force of Violent by Design, and that these guys are going lower and lower at this point, and they need to work their way back into his favor. So he says that they need to figure out a way to eliminate the sickness forever. So yeah, interesting stuff. After this is Madison Rayne versus Masha Slamovich, and yeah, this is the quickest squash match I think that Masha's had. I think there are 3 moves hit in this match. One was a slap, or a push from Madison to get Masha away from her, and then the rest was Masha. And yeah, Giselle came out with Madison, and after the match is comforting Madison, checking on her, and Masha grabs the death warrant from ringside, which she was keeping at the commentary table apparently, and hands it to Giselle, and yeah, Giselle is officially marked for death. Yep. After this, Brian Myers is giving a social media seminar backstage when Bhupinder interrupts it, and says that he continues to knock down any challenge that has been put before him, and he wants his shot at the digital media title. Brian Myers says that if you want to have a chance at the championship, you have to act like a champion. And if somebody is calling you out, like Vincent has been doing, I keep on hearing him in the locker room talking smack about you. You need to go and stand up to them. So I'll go talk to Vincent and get you guys a match next week so you can settle your differences, and then we can see about if you can get the title shot. I think this is fun. I think the obvious is Bhupinder's going to beat Vincent. It's going to eventually lead to Bhupinder versus Brian Myers. Whether or not Bhupinder wins is a different story, but I think this will be interesting to see what happens for that title and when it happens. After this, we get another Killer Kelly vignette, in which it says at the end that Killer Kelly will be debuting next week. So good stuff. Still interested to see what they decide to do with Killer Kelly. If they're going to hotshot her for the title, if they're going to, have her kind of face enhancement talent to build herself up a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with her, but it seems like they have a lot invested in her since it's been reported that they've had her signed since 2020, and they've just been waiting to debut her at the right point. So it'll be interesting. This seems like a long-term project that they've had, and it'll be interesting to see what they do for it. After this, we get Ace Austin and Chris Bay versus the OGK. As the OGK have called them, it is the Bullet Club Young Boys. As commentary calls them, it is Bullet Club's Young Guns. I thought this was a really fun match. I think that at least in my opinion, I thought that this was just a way to have the OG Kingdom get a title shot was by beating the other tag team of Bullet Club that is in Impact. I thought that, Ace and Chris Bay are basically they are basically X Division competitors. They're juniors, if we were looking at the New Japan system. And, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, they just pinned Gallows in their big tag match last week. So why not have them pin these guys? I thought this was a really good match. Ace and Chris Bay have worked really well together for guys who haven't been tagging together long. As commentary pointed out, this is their second solo tag team effort as parts of Bullet Club. They're part of the 4-on-4 tag match last week with Gallows and Carl Anderson, but this is their second match as a actual tag team, just those two, with their previous being against the Motor City Machine Guns at Against All Odds, in which they lost. Maria is at ringside, and she's trying to get under the skin constantly of Ace and Bay, and at one point she does distract the ref as well as Ace Austin, which allows Matt Taven to get into the ring, low blow Chris Bay, and it looks like Chris Bay is going to eat the pin here, but out of nowhere, Heath runs in during this, hits the wake-up call on Matt Taven, leaving just Mike Bennett in. Ace Austin tags in, comes in, hits the fold on Mike Bennett. 1, 2, 3. Ace Austin has pinned Mike Bennett. I thought this was really good work here. It was not what I was expecting. It was a bit of a surprise, in my opinion. I think the goal is still for Emergence to have OGK versus the Good Brothers for the tag titles, but I think this is a very unique opportunity that you've seen Heath get involved here. I like this version of Heath just coming in, taking out Arno Moore. I don't know where it leads for Heath. I'm assuming it will lead to Heath versus Eddie at some point, maybe at Emergence, but we'll find out. Yes, after this, this would take us to backstage. Macklin is being interviewed by Gia, talking about, what happened last week with Sammy, trying to target him. Macklin says he's not worried about Sammy. The lights go out. Sammy is right behind him, and they start brawling for a bit. They brawl from the interview area to a hallway, into a court, a stairwell, which Moose is hiding in and attacks Sammy, and it looks like Moose and Macklin are going to line up a garbage can to attack, to kind of drive it into Sammy against the wall. But then Moose says, "Grab his phone," and they pans over to Sammy, who has his phone, turns off touches the phone. It turns off the lights in the stairwell, and he disappears. So apparently, Sammy can control the lights anywhere, not just in the arena, or just not at the ring or in the interview area, but also the hallways and the stairwells as well. After this, Rosemary is trying to convince Jessica, who is normally Havoc, to go back to her old ring gear and go back to the darker side. Havoc, or Jessica, as she's being called now, doesn't like this gear. She says it's not her style. She doesn't like the dark stuff anymore. She much prefers Taya's outfit, which is her big fluffy coat, which Taya likes and compliments her on her style. Before Havoc or Jessica says she'll be right back, she'll show her what she means, what she really likes. She comes back with her own fluffy coat, which she calls her battle coat. And Rosemary gets annoyed that this is happening. She storms off, and then Jessica and Taya talk about their coats and their love of fashion. We also get point where Taya points out that, you know, this is just like Susie or Sue Young turning into Susie and Susan. It's just, you know, Havoc is now Jessica, and we have to respect it. And yeah, I think this is an interesting idea, but I don't think like all the different personalities of Susie, Sue Young, Susan, I don't think they all worked as well, especially when they were all dragged out as long as they were, and kept on flip-flopping, and just having no momentum behind them. And I think that's similar here with Havoc turning into Jessica. If Jessica doesn't want to wrestle or anything like that, I think it's not going to help their group. After this, Josh is backstage with Scott talking about how excited he is for the Mercy Machine Guns Civil War, for them to this number one contenders match. But he also says that, you know, we need to figure out after this who could be a number one contender in the future. And he starts running down some competitors that could be. Talks about Sammy, he talks about Rich Swann, he talks about, I believe Macklin was named. Rich Swann hears his name and just appears. He says, hey, I heard what you said. I really like that list. You know, I was world champion a few years ago. It was fun. It was the best I ever was. I was on the top of the world. But when I lost it, I lost my mojo, and I was never given the chance to get my rematch. So I think I should get my chance now against you. And, you know, we should do that soon. Josh seems into it, but then Scott says, you know, you do have your mojo back, but I have a better opportunity for you. If you want to prove that you can get a title shot, since we already have a number one contenders match set up tonight, how about next week, you versus Kushida? Rich Swann says he really likes this. This will take us to our main event. It is Chris Sabin versus Alex Shelley. Before the match, as they're coming out, commentary runs down some quick facts about these two against each other. They have had 7 matches against each other, 5 wins for Chris Sabin, 1 win for Alex Shelley, and 1 draw between the two of them. This is Alex Shelley's first ever number one contenders match, not just having a world title match in general, but he's never even had a number one contenders match for the world title. Also pointing out that this is their first match between each other since 2009 in any company. So that's pretty cool. I thought this was a fantastic match. This is up there for one of the best television matches of the year, in my opinion. Especially that Impact has done. But I think overall you could say this was one of the best television matches that any company has put forward so far this year. Commentary also noted that the last time that we were in this building, Shelly had a potential match of the year match against Jay White, which I agree. They did have a match of the year candidate. I think that match was better than this match, tonight, but I do think that maybe this building just works really well for Alex Shelley because he just knocks it out of the park anytime that he is wrestling here, it seems, this year. I thought this was a absolutely outstanding match for two guys who have known each other for so long. It makes sense that they would have great chemistry. I just think that it's wild to think that at the beginning of this year, these guys weren't working together. We didn't know when Alex Shelley was going to be back in Impact, if he was ever going to come back to Impact. He just kind of disappeared. And then he came back out of nowhere and has just been killing it. Chris Sabin has had some fantastic matches throughout this year. They've really been two of the big MVPs, I'd say, in terms of match quality that Impact has had this year, and that's just shows that just because you're one of the vets, one of the older guys on the roster, does not mean that you can't be the MVP of a company, and they've knocked it out of the park again. Lots of near falls, lots of teasing that, maybe they were getting a little more frustrated than they should have been with each other. They just really want, both of these guys really want another chance at the world title. Alex Shelley really wants his first chance for a world title in Impact. And Shelley's will finally prevails. Chris Sabin kicked out of a shell shock. He got out of the Border City stretch a few times, but finally Shelley is able to tap Sabin out. Crowd goes wild for Shelley to finally have his first ever world title chance. And he goes to Sabin, they hug, they shake hands, but this is undone soon because Diener and Jordynne run in, attack both. They pan backstage throughout this match that Josh is watching, and it looks like he's going to come out to help because they show him running away from the screen. And then all of a sudden, we hear Kushida's theme, and Kushida has his Titantron, and Kushida comes out making the save, and Kushida stands tall with the Motor City Machine Guns, and that is how the show ends. I thought this was a really good ending. I thought this was a pretty good show. Lots of good matches on here. Again, Masha squashing Madison. Who knows what this leaves for Madison? As we know, me and Angelo have said, we think Madison's probably trying to end her time, go back to retirement. Maybe this is the way that they do that. Maybe this is how the influence... I don't know if this means that there's no more influence, since they've seen that Giselle is part of the group now. Does this mean that Giselle and Tenille will be the tag team from now on? Who knows? But we do know that it seems like Masha versus Giselle is next up, for Masha at least. We also got some big news towards the end of the show when they were running down matches. So next week we've got Eddie Edwards versus Ace Austin. We've got Rich Swann versus Kushida. We've got Bhupinder versus Vincent, it seems. But then they ran down some the matches for Emergence, and we now have Alex Shelley versus Josh Alexander for the Impact World title. We've got Jordynne Grace versus Mia Yim for the Knockouts title. We've got Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary versus VXT, Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green. And we have two debuts. We've got Ray Horace versus Bandito in a AAA Lucha Libre showcase match. So that's cool. I know there's talk a few weeks ago that Bandito was approached by Impact to get signed by them. Kind of surprised that AEW didn't try to sign him to either ROH or AEW. since he is, working with AAA. It would make sense since, AAA has a relationship with AEW. They also have a working relationship with Impact, of course, but definitely thought that would go the other way. They might go back to Ring of Honor now that it's owned by the same people, but no, does seem like this is a sign that he's at least going to stick around with Impact for at least one night, maybe multiple. Also cool to see Ray Horse getting a chance. That should be a fantastic match. Also should be noted that the Briscoes are officially signed long term, according to Tony Khan, to Ring of Honor. So does seem like they are done with Impact officially now. So yeah, I think there's always going to be a question of why didn't Impact try to make an offer to the Briscoes? Why didn't they capitalize on that the few months that they weren't signed to Ring of Honor? But I think it's mainly they wanted to be in Ring of Honor. They wanted to work with AEW as much as they could. And they wanted to be with Ring of Honor since it's been basically their home for the past 20 years at this point. So why not try to stick with them and hear them out? And it hadn't been a secret that that Tony was trying to sign the Briscoes and trying to get them to be there. I just think that no matter what Impact offered, they weren't going to leave the door closed on ROH. And that seems what it was. I don't think it's a missed opportunity. I think it was just an opportunity that wasn't really there. It was just going to be a short-term thing unless there was zero way that the Briscoes could go back to Ring of Honor. So yeah, that will end this week's episode of the Impact Power Hour. Feel free to let us know your thoughts on the episode, your thoughts on some of the stuff I talked about today, any thoughts at all on the way towards Emergence on either Twitter at Deep Six Wrestling, on our YouTube channel, in the comment section for this podcast. Let us know. Thank you guys. Be safe, and we'll talk to you next time.